All right, baby. We are live this Thursday night. We just got to let it breathe for a second here to bring on Facebook, and we'll get this party started. Super stoked to see you guys. Hope everybody's had a great week. Zach was holding it down for us last night solo. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zach, another day goes by. We'll just call it free agency day 4, even though technically the new league year opened yesterday. But nevertheless, another day goes by. Zach, no outside signings. The Broncos did bring back 2 more guys today, Adam Prentice and Lil Jordan Humphrey. We'll get into that. We'll get into the coaching staff thing and some of the revelations there. But the Broncos now, Zach, are the only NFL team. They were up there with the Seahawks for a minute, but now the only NFL team this week that is yet to make an outside signing.
Lil Jordan Humphrey's like Twinkies. Like, he would survive the apocalypse. He would survive like a nuclear holocaust, Chad. Like, he'll never go away. We'll never be free of Lil Jordan Humphrey. It'll be 2050. He'll be catching passes from whoever's quarterbacking the Broncos. It's strange. What's stranger than not making any moves is the fact that there's not even any reports of moves, not even any rumors of news, Chad. It's crazy. We went over it last night, but nothing really more to say because nothing's happened yet. It's crazy. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, it's like they had a plan going in. They had a few guys maybe they were interested in checking in on, and then but their overarching plan / philosophy, outlook, whatever was, we're going to really be very selective because I think, Zach, at this stage, it's not just a matter of, we talked about it throughout the week, right? Like arrogance, running it back. But I really think, Zach, it comes down to this with this much water under the bridge, so to speak, it really speaks to the whole we're going to preserve and protect our comp pick thing from losing John Franklin Myers, which could end up netting them, not this year, by the way, next year, a 2027 fourth round pick. PJ Locke might get him back a 7th rounder, maybe. But that just doesn't seem like enough justification to go, hey, we're in a window here with Bo Nix. Right. Are you really not seeing any options to upgrade the team? I can't believe that. Like, it's really bizarre.
Well, Todd's saying, and that's what threw me for a loop when I was answering the last question. He's saying Njoku's visiting the Broncos. There's a rumor from like a fake or parody account, Todd. I don't know if you're seeing the Ricky account on Twitter. Yeah, that's what Chase is saying. Yeah, it was a fake parody account, Todd. I haven't seen any other confirmation that David Njoku's visiting the Broncos. I'd be surprised as well, considering he'll want way more than Adam Troutman got because they made their choice, Chad. They're running it back at tight end. The same 3. We talked about it last night. Literally the same 3 in that order. Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman, Lucas Kroll. There's your weapons, Bo Nix. And to your point, Chad, they were this close away from making the Super Bowl. They lost in the AFC title game. What was this much that they needed? Another offensive weapon, more firepower. So to not do that for your team, for your offense, for your quarterback, for the sake of a 3rd round pick, insane. There's no other way to justify it. It's insane.
On one hand, I understand, like, look, there weren't any super tier 1, Zach, wide receiver weapon types in this class after George Pickens got tagged by the Cowboys. But still, there's some guys out there, Zach, that even if they weren't necessarily clear upgrades over a Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, Marvin Mims, could bring you some help. At this stage, it just feels like now the Broncos are just trying to be contrarian, which fits very much so with the personality of their head coach, Zach. But, oh, my goodness gracious, we got Michaela Parker. Michaela's been going through the – she's been going through the emotional roller coaster all week. Very disappointed. But she kind of was like, yesterday she saw something that made her kind of change her thought a little. Or was it yesterday or the day before? The week's starting to run together on me. But either way, and today she's not so happy about it. We're gonna read her super chat here. But first, Michaela, we love you. We appreciate you. I know we're all kind of scratching our heads right now, but let's, through all this mystery and confusion, not forget what it is that brings us all together. And that's what happens on the field at Empower Field at Mile High on Sundays from September through January. So those days are still coming. We were here, right? Whether it was Drew Lock and Vance Joseph days, Vance Joseph, Drew Lock days, Vic Fangio days, Teddy Bridgewater, Russ, or Bo and Sean Payton. We're still going to be here. But anyway, so generous. This, guys, is called a super chat on YouTube that maxes out. It's the very biggest super chat YouTube will allow an individual donation to make. And believe it or not, it's not the first time. Many of you already know this, but it's not the first time she's been this generous on an individual super chat. You're getting the ball dome, Michaela. Love you so much. And just roll with the punches on this with us, my dear friend. Love you. She says, I'm shocked. We are the only team that hasn't made any moves to improve the team. We have so many needs. We have a desperate need at linebacker. Singleton will get burned constantly. We needed a running back to take the load when Dobbins gets hurt, and he will. We needed a real tight end. We need a true, dependable number one receiver. We need a safety. Is this self-sabotage? I don't think so. Zach, I've talked for a second. Why don't you give some thoughts here to the Duchess?
First of all, Michaela, you left me speechless. I wasn't even talking when I saw that come through, and you left me speechless. Thank you so much for your generosity, as you always want to show. You are literally incredible, foundational member. You already know this, and you know how much we appreciate you. But we're never going to stop telling you. I got to be honest. I don't know that I'm on the cliff or about to jump off the cliff. But if you saw the show, Michaela, I don't know that you were in the chat, but I'm sure you saw it after the fact. I can't really dispute what you're saying here. You had a chance to really improve your team. You had legitimate needs throughout your roster. You're off of the Russell Wilson contract. You're in the Bo Nix rookie contract window. You're in your Super Bowl window. There is no reason why. And they had enough cap space to make something happen if they wanted. They restructured Quinn Miners. There's no reason why the Broncos didn't go out there and make it happen. And you were talking about, Chad, you mentioned, oh, the receiver market wasn't that fruitful. Well, that's true, but the running back market was, the tight end market still is, and the Broncos haven't shown an interest, not even a faint interest in bringing anyone in or exploring an outside addition. To go 3-4 days without making one outside move when your owner and GM said they're going to be opportunistically aggressive, it's fishy. And that's why I put out there on the pod last night, like, does it date back to that comment about Bo's ankle? Is there friction from Sean Payton and Bo Nix? Is Sean Payton sabotaging Davis Webb by not giving him, I almost dropped my mic, by not giving him enough weapons? We don't have anything else to go on. So all we can do is speculate. I don't know what the reason is, but I do know I'm very thankful for you, Michaela. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We love you, Michaela, and we're glad to see you tonight. I mean, a couple things real quick. And this is from Dylan Von Arks, who might be in the chat tonight. I haven't checked, but he's often in there with us, helping us keep the order on YouTube. But he had an article today I thought was really interesting, everybody. And that was entitled 3 Ways the Broncos' Conservative Free Agency Gamble Could Backfire, right? And he went on, Zach, to list 3 things here. A tougher schedule. And I want to talk about this, right? So on one hand, they played last season a 3rd-place schedule. This season, they're going to be playing a 1st-place schedule. It's going to be tougher. We can talk about that. The other point is it puts more pressure, Zach, on the draft class, and even more specifically, if they don't make any moves. I mean, 3 days ago, I was going, guys, they're going to make moves. I mean, come on. Here we are Thursday now, and you're starting to question your own sanity. But if they don't make any moves, it creates more pressure on the players that are drafted to contribute right away, and on the coaching staff to get them in position, these rookies, to contribute. So I think that's a very fair potential blowback scenario. And then the third point he brings up here is, same roster, yeah, but it's the same problem. So on one hand, exactly, you do have, Zach, last season, the Broncos had a very good roster. All the foundational pieces, franchise quarterback, deep defense, great offensive line. The questions come in at the skill positions. And so if you run it back, yeah, you're still strong in all those areas, but the very same spots that you did have weaknesses last year, it wasn't a perfect roster.
Right.
They're still your problem. So I think some really good analysis there from Dylan and Michaela. I wish we had answers for you. I wish we could just pick up the phone and call George Payton and say, dude, can you tell us what's going on? But the truth is, Zach, I think on some level, they are signaling not so much sabotage at all, in my opinion, of Bo Nix, but more of a signaling that, kind of like when Peyton Manning came to Denver, no one thought, Demaryius Thomas was a former 1st-round pick, late 1st-round pick, but a 1st-round pick. Eric Decker, Julius Thomas. These were not guys that anyone around the NFL, besides Broncos fans and their respective college teams, no one knew who these guys were. Peyton Manning comes in. He's the tide that raises all ships. And all of a sudden you've got superstars surrounding him, right? And people are like, look at all the talent in Denver. Well, that talent was there all along, but it was missing the most crucial component, Zach, which was that franchise quarterback. So I think part of this is at least informed by we're kind of displaying our confidence here in Bo Nix. And yet, as much as I can appreciate that, Zach, and now I'm serving it back to you, I still think you're selling him short. He needs more help.
Yeah, I mean, the audience has heard from me a day more. They've heard from you. We can only repeat the same things about why they're not making these moves and speculating this and that. I don't know that it's direct sabotage, but like you said, they were another weapon short from making the Super Bowl or even maybe winning the Super Bowl if they faced the Seattle Seahawks. To not go out there and do that for your quarterback, the same quarterback, by the way, that got you to that point, that sacrificed his freaking ankle and needed that help. Why did Sean Payton Shad say in the season-ending press conference then, why did he talk about how bad the receivers couldn't catch passes or how bad the receiving core was? Why was every inkling, he fired the receiving coach, why was every inkling about making the team better? And even he said that right after the Patriots game. He goes, I know we have work to do, and we're going to evaluate the roster, and we're going to get better from this. How have they gotten better? Every other team in the division, every other team, including the Raiders, especially the Raiders, in fact, they've gotten better. The Broncos, they didn't stay neutral. They got worse. They took a step back, and they did that on their own volition from their inactivity, Chad, by sitting on their hands. It's inexplicable.
It's really weird, especially coming from a GM that says we're going to be in on every deal, baby. Michaela, just again, I want you to know how much we appreciate that magnitude of support and generosity. I mean, when we talk about helping us keep the lights on, you are doing that because this has been a weird week, and that trickles down to every facet of what we do relative to how we make a buck. So love you and thank you very much, my friends. Hang in there. Hang in there. Papa Bear checking in early too. A dear member, Mount Rushmore as well, saying good evening, Broncos country. Much love. Let's go, Bo, and God bless the USA. We got to keep the men and women of the armed services in our prayers constantly right now with what's going on. Thank you, Papa Bear. Really good to see you, brother. We also have, pardon me, the Ronk checking in early with a very, very generous super chat. Ronk,
thank you, Michael.
We love you, big dog. Another dear member, foundational superstar, saying good evening, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. And it really is looking like the Bo Broncos for show right now. Like, hey, Bo, lead us to the promised land because you're it, buddy. Love you, Ronk. Thank you, pal. Sam Bam checking in, dear members.
Appreciate you, Sam.
Hi, guys. Well, it's kind of too bad we don't have an outside free agent signing to talk about tonight, but I think our free agent signings will come. I still have full faith in George and Sean Payton. I hear Njoku is visiting. That's fake news. Thoughts on him? Go Broncos. I still, I'm not sure. I think it was Chase I saw say this in the chat. It's already jumped on me, so I can't be sure, but I'm pretty sure it was Chase. I'm fine. Honestly, guys, some people, and including at MHH, some of the podcasters, have really taken exception to some of the contracts that the Broncos have handed out by way of extensions / re-signings, like specifically the money that was given to J.K. Dobbins, which I understand. I don't really have a problem with it. The one deal, Zach, of all these, I'm cool with them. The one deal that still sticks in my craw is that Adam Troutman deal. And it ties into this whole, what do you think on David Njoku? Because David Njoku is a guy you could bring in, Zach, to complement. Yeah, you pay him more, but he could still complement a receiver type big slot Evan Ingram, playing the Y. He can block. That's something that he learned to do over the years of being in Cleveland. And he's still a very good receiver. He could give you that value, really upgrade your athleticism and production there, including it on the ground when he's blocking. But they instead, Zach, paid whatever it was. What was the contract? 18-something million to Adam Troutman. That is the one move that, I mean, I'm fine. Don't sign anyone. Okay. Why did you give that to Adam Troutman? Because then it also, Zach, ends up kind of negating other possibilities that would have been out there, which, by the way, David Njoku, there was nothing that could be done about him till the Browns officially released him, which they've done.
See, I thank you, Sam. I wasn't fine with the Broncos not addressing this area. It didn't have to be Njoku. I mean, Dallas Goedert's still out there. They could have signed Isaiah Likely, who got a big deal, because they had the worst, in my opinion, or arguably whatever, the worst tight end room in the NFL last season.
Yeah.
And to run it back, Chad, with the same three. So what they did is they didn't release Evan Ingram. They brought back Adam Troutman and they brought back Lucas Kroll. There's your three. Go ahead and have fun, Bo Nix, and enjoy throwing to these Jags again and not going out and getting a higher ceiling and a higher floor player. David Njoku would be the best tight end on the roster as soon as he stepped foot in the building. I would love for it to happen, Sam, but I can't hold my breath anymore. I'm watching what the Broncos do and not what they've said.
There's still some great tight ends out there, but now when they've spent the money they did on Troutman, they brought Adkins back as well and Kroll, and then today, of course, Adam Prentice, who granted is not a tight end, but a lot of that H-back stuff you saw him utilized in that way. It's hard to see him going out and spending. Now, maybe they draft a guy, but this is also partly them, I think, also, Zach, kind of betting on the guys they've drafted over the last 2 or 3 years, not just the guys we all know and have seen on the field, but some of the guys still percolating, like Caleb Lohner, who, you know, if he ends up doing something, it'll be kind of a cherry on top. I don't think anyone's really expecting it at this point, but it would be awesome if he could come through. Taylor, brother, thank you, pal. Good to see you on Super Chat. Dear member saying nothing's changed, guys. I don't get it. MHH for life. I mean, honestly, Zach, it feels like Sean Payton's just got his phone open on Twitter. It's like, George, listen to this take, dude. Just trolling Broncos fans and Broncos media. That's honestly what it feels like because it's so outside the norm.
It's Sean Payton being Sean Payton, and he protected his Twitter account as well. He locked his account. I'm sure he's getting tagged a lot from how inactive the Broncos have been. But that's Sean Payton for you. He assembled the roster that took the Broncos to the AFC title game, and he drafted the players that he's banking on, like you were talking about, Chad. So it's ego and it's pride. Just because he passed the baton to Davis Webb, that ego and pride from Payton has not gone anywhere.
So real quick, guys, thank you again, Taylor. Much love, buddy. I want to show you this here from the Jaguars GM, who up until was it yesterday they finally made a move, Zach? They were one of the 3 or 4 teams like the Broncos, like the Seahawks, that had not added an outside free agent. And this is their GM, James Gladstone. I won't play the whole clip, but I'm going to play about 30 seconds of it. And it is absolutely worth your time to listen. And I think it goes a long way, maybe not the whole way, toward explaining the mindset in Denver right now in the wake of losing JFM.
A higher volume of draft capital is what we're hunting up, and those compensatory picks. When you think about high-priced free agents of ours, and
can you hear it? No.
Dang. Well-deserved.
Did you hear it, Zach?
I mean, it's a little low, but I
guys that have already announced this.
Well, long story short, it's basically, it is kind of quiet, isn't it? It's basically just he talks about how not only is it about, we want that 4th round pick, or in the Broncos case, right? Like a 4th, maybe a 3rd for JFM on the comp scale, but like what we can do with that now that you can trade comp picks and stuff. Like he talks about specifically how draft picks help them build a better team, not just through the draft, Zach, but you get into the season, you're missing this, you realize you're missing that. Use a pick to trade for Jacoby Myers, for example, and da-da-da-da-da. And again, I understand it. I don't think it should shock Zach or surprise anybody that it's got to be part of the arithmetic anytime you approach a free agent situation, but it should not trump the opportunity to better your team in the now, because we've heard it from George Payton, Sean Payton, not as much, but George Payton talks about this. Free agency is about filling immediate needs so that you can then, Zach, go into the draft and, have a little bit more long-term approach and try to be as best player available as possible.
Maybe it's what the Broncos are doing here. This is the long game they're playing for a comp pick. I wouldn't agree with it at all. I would absolutely, despise going this route and not getting Bo Nix a weapon because he wanted a comp pick. But it's always so tough comparing two separate situations, like the Jaguar situation with what they're doing and roster building, and with where they're at versus where the Broncos are and how they're assembling their roster. It's like everyone was saying, well, the Broncos didn't do anything and the Seahawks didn't either. So obviously the Broncos, they can't be in that bad a company. The Seahawks just won the Super Bowl. The Broncos didn't. The Seahawks can still see the fingerprints on the trophy, Chad, and smell the beer coming off of it. The Broncos can't say the same. So they should have been more aggressive. Anyone telling you otherwise is being deceitful.
Shannon Mills checking in, another one of our dear Super Chat superstars and members. We love you, Shannon. She says, hey, Chad, Zach, and Broncos country, it has been a strange week, but I'm still trying to trust the process and hope the Broncos sign someone during the next wave. Look, I have my questions here, Zach, just like everybody else. I haven't really been as panicked about it as some folks have, which I understand the panic and the just kind of like, what the heck? But I still do. In Sean Payton, I trust that mindset. I still have that, like, to a certain point, but then again, Zach, the flip side of that coin is at a certain point as well. You got to start questioning some of this stuff. It's like, it's bizarre, dude. Like, okay, maybe they just, Zach, don't want to have to do a middle of March press conference to introduce a new free agent. I don't know, but you're leaving us to grasp at some pretty weird ass straws at this point.
I mean, I see this from, and I keep refreshing Twitter, and it's never there. It's never going to pop up, Chad. It's never going to say Broncos signed this player, and it's not related to the Broncos. But I see Luca Evans from the Denver Post. Great follow if you guys are on Twitter. But he goes, I know the Broncos have poked around on tight end, inside linebacker, offensive line, and special teams veterans in the market. We'll see if anything materializes tomorrow. And one more point about this too, and thank you, Shannon. You mentioned earlier, Chad, George Payton being in on every deal and bragging about that. And at some point, it's not a flex. At some point, it becomes like a black mark as a GM. If you're in on every deal, but you can't close one of them, at some point, it's got to be reflective of George Payton as a GM, like not bringing this talent in. Are you pinching pennies? Did you get an edict from Greg Penner or the Waltons? Are they telling you not to spend money? But like you said, we're left in the dark. Same with the Dre Greenlaw situation when he was hurt. We had nothing to go on except speculation, and conspiracies happened. I don't know. I don't agree with the way they're going about handling this, Shannon, but it's been a little strange in the Sean Payton era.
Yeah, this is definitely unique. We're in some uncharted waters relative to, as long as I've been covering the team, it's never been the first 4 days of business being open and no moves being made. And especially, Zach, the way it was signaled with, we're freeing up $11 million by restructuring Quinn Miners, which is great. They could have actually gone much farther and restructured other guys. Again, Mike McGlinchey, Talanoa Hufanga. Dre Greenlaw landed on his feet, though. Zach signed a 1 year, what was it, $7.5 million deal back with the Niners.
Fishy.
So there you go. That's the development of the day. The other thing is the Broncos, real quick, and then we'll get back to the chat here. The Broncos unveiled, however you want to call it, their official coaching staff for 2026. And kind of interesting, buried there at the bottom of the offensive list of coaches were 2 new quality control hires. One, a fella named J.D. Johnson. The other, Zach, a fella that a lot of people remember and recognize, Willie Snead IV, who was a wide receiver, played for Sean Payton.
There it is.
Several years.
There it is. Yeah, I was going to say the line, Chad. He played for Sean Payton. He knows Sean Payton. It's not a big deal. It's not like an offensive coordinator position, but they just had that with Joe Lombardi. It's beginning to be too much, Chad, an over-concentration of Payton acolytes in the Broncos building, but we'll see. I'll give Snead the benefit of the doubt. I hope he does well.
Yeah, I expect that he'll probably work a little bit with the new wide receivers coach, Ronald Curry. So anyway, that's official. The staff's locked in. Legit Mafia checking in. Welcome. Appreciate the super chat, big dog. It says, it seems like they are making moves that a tanking team would make. Obviously, we know they aren't tanking, but it's so confusing. What is the vision? And see, that's the thing here, Mafia, that we can only guess at. And, we can use our reason and deductive logic to go through and try and put yourself in the position. Okay, if this is what the action is, what could possibly justify it or motivate it or whatever? And we've talked a lot about a lot of them already tonight, Zach, like the whole comp pick thing. That's part of it. If you look at it as a pie chart, what's motivating this thing, maybe that's like 30% of the pie chart consumed, maybe more, maybe it's 90%, but that to me would be very bad thinking. The whole idea of, we felt like we were so close last year that we're running it back. We're showing our faith and support in Bo Nix, that we think Bo's going to take an even bigger step in year 3, and all of a sudden make these guys that, like Franklin, that's doing 700 yards last year, he's a 1,000-yard guy, and Pat Bryant that's 400 yards, 500 yards, whatever. He's close to 1,000. Evan Ingram's going to be back up there 900 yards. If that's the internal thinking, cool, man. They should have at least said a little. Maybe you don't. I mean, maybe not, Zach. If that's your thinking as a team and competitively, right, you're going to try and not ever share too much about what you're trying to do. I guess you're not going to go blabbering about it, Zach, at the combine.
No, but like, again, I mentioned the comments that Sean Payton made right after they lost to the Patriots. He was talking about the drops, and he finally acknowledged it, Chad, finally, after they were prevalent all season, but he couldn't ignore them anymore. They hurt Jarrett Stidham in that game, and he goes, the receivers weren't catching the ball properly, literally, that elementary. And then he fired the receivers coach, Gary Colbert. So maybe he scapegoated Colbert. But to say that and then to not do anything about it, to expect Troy Franklin to take a leap, Troy Franklin's probably never going to be anything more than a high-end number 3. Let's be real. Marvin Mims, more than likely a gadget player, maybe a high-end number 2, maybe. You need that number 1. Pat Bryant, you can't count him. He gets hurt now every game. I love the potential, but that's all he is. You don't have that number 1, and you don't probably have that guy on the roster, not now or in 5 years. Go out and get that guy. What are we waiting for? Help your quarterback. You spent a decade trying to get a franchise quarterback. You finally have him now, and now you're going to get cheap and frugal and pinch pennies. It doesn't make sense, Chad, at all.
Yeah, I mean, even when Peyton Manning was the quarterback here for 4 years, right, he inherited a young offense that everyone felt like he could maximize, and he did that. But they brought in a couple familiar faces at first to, show the guys the ropes and give Peyton some comfortability. Jacob Tamme, the tight end, Brandon Stokely, the wide receiver. And then what happened the next year? They bring in Wes Welker. Time marches on. You bring in Emmanuel Sanders. You bring in other guys when the philosophy changed slightly with Coob. You bring in Owen Daniels. You bring in Vernon Davis. You bring in guys to plug the holes, wherever you're light, wherever you're weak. And I'm with Michaela, who said we needed a real tight end. By that simply means a guy who can be an all-around tight end. And I know that Adam Troutman says very indignantly that he is an all-around tight end. Look, he goes out there and he does it. And there are plays, Zach, of the guy. If you're on X at all, you've seen people online trying to defend him. You'll see these clips. He has plays where he wins. He's not a complete incompetent. But in the same way, Zach, that we talk about, RJ lacked that game-to-game consistency between the tackles, right? That you could rely on. That's the problem with Troutman too, is the why. You can't rely on it with consistency, and you need someone there that you can. And look, with J.K. Dobbins, I get it. I really do understand why they're throwing in with him and giving him a raise. They believe, Zach, that he's as good as any of those guys like Walker or Etienne that were getting 14, 13 million a year. Obviously, you got the injury drawback, but the one kind of difference here is they're paying him, as far as what they're on the books to pay him no matter what, Zach, they're paying him $5 million a year less than what Etienne got. He's getting $8 million unless he hits 1,200 yards rushing. And if he hits 1,200 yards rushing, they're going to be happy to write him that extra couple $1 million. But what they're really betting on is that a full offseason in the Broncos strength conditioning player wellness program, Bo Lowry, Dan Dalrymple, that it's going to make the difference. He's arguing that way on X, Zach. He's attacking anyone that's coming after him. So I think that kind of shows you that's the mindset and why they're paying J.K. Dobbins. Not only that, he was a great fit for this team, as George Payton said. He was a great hit around here. But how far can you rely on him? Can you really trust he's going to be there?
I think the thing they like the most, talking about where you were saying there, would be for J.K. Dobbins to actually play a full season and be reliable and be available for the Broncos. And that's why we could be split on this. It's okay. Some Broncos fans, or most Broncos fans are. I would have been okay paying a few million more and getting Travis Etienne or Kenneth Walker or Tyler Algier, who didn't get that much money, or Rico Dowdle, who didn't get that much money either. Any of these running backs, I feel like they would have done what J.K. Dobbins can do, but they would have stayed healthy for all 17 regular season games. That's the biggest drawback. You're going to pay him that much money, but at any point throughout the year, Chad, it's going to happen. And that's how we have to approach it. God forbid it does. I hope it doesn't. I hope J.K. Dobbins becomes an all-pro. But it could happen at any time, and we have to expect that it happens. And what's the fallback plan? You're running it back. It's the same thing. So RJ Harvey would be the RB1. We saw how that worked out already. It doesn't work out well. They are shortchanging Bo Nix. They are shortchanging Davis Webb. It doesn't make sense at all.
Based on the moves that they've already made, we can probably surmise that they're not going to go out and pay a tight end. Maybe I'm wrong. There's still room there, though, Zach, for what
Paid
you
one
just
already.
mentioned. For a running back, there is room for an extra guy. Now, who's out there now that really makes sense? I'm mystified that they were not even in on Algier. You guys know before free agency, my ideal solution was bring back JK, give him a little bit of a raise, front load the deal so you're protected. Really, it's a 1-year deal, 2 years, but it's only the first year guaranteed. A little bit of a raise and go get Tyler Algier. That was my ideal solution. But according to people I talked to, he wasn't even really on their radar. They checked in on Walker. They checked in on Etienne, Zach.
Yeah, and it just no visits even in the building, Chad. Nothing even reported beyond just, oh, we checked in. And that's like secondhand information anyway. But to not take a gamble on a tight end, to not even sign one player, that is what's so surprising to me. I wasn't expecting Madden type numbers from George Paton and Sean Payton, but I was expecting at least one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay. I don't know if that was my screen or not.
Scott's trying to get something queued up for us.
Thought I was tripping out.
David Youngkin, brother, we appreciate you being a member, consistently in the chat, contributing to the conversation, throwing down a super chat. He says, if they miss the playoffs, who's to blame? Bo, Webb, Peyton, or Peyton? I mean, it's hard to say, right? Like, depends on the complexion of how they may or may not miss the playoffs. But if it comes down to injury woes, if it comes down to, which I don't believe will happen, because the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, or another way to say that, the best predictor of the future is the past. It's not the only predictor because things can change, but I don't expect him to all of a sudden get snake bitten. But there are those guys, Zach, that you got to worry about. We already just talked about one of them, and that's J.K. Dobbins. But, you know, if it's a big schematic fail, the offense fails to take any steps forward or even appears to regress, it won't last too long. I mean, if that's the way it looks the first quarter of the season, you'll see Peyton step back in and take over play calling. And hopefully by then, Zach, it wouldn't be too late. But it really just depends. At this stage, though, we don't have the full picture of what the draft haul is going to be and all that stuff. So it's a little too early for me to say, but you might have a better answer for David.
Well, I mostly agree. If Sean Payton did step back in, though, what would happen if the offense didn't improve? That would be a real crap show to deal with if you're Sean Payton and company there. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, as of right now, as of March 12th, the answer I can give you is if they don't make the playoffs, it would be a talent deficiency issue on offense, because that's the reason they didn't win the Super Bowl. It wasn't the defense. It arguably wasn't the coaching, even though the play calling could have been better. It was the lack of talent. You lost your franchise quarterback. That doesn't help either, but it was evident you needed a better receiver than Lil Jordan Humphrey, a better tight end than Adam Troutman, a better running back than Tyler Bidet, and he just didn't have it. So as of right now, it would be the front office. It would be Sean and George Payton for not doing enough to put the Broncos over that hump. But like Chad was saying, Bo Nix, God forbid, could have a slump. Something could happen. The players couldn't perform as well. I mean, the execution has to be right on the field. So ask me again in like December, and I'll have a more accurate answer. Right now, it would be the front office and Sean Payton.
And they are shaking things up, you know, as much as they're trying to run it back. And I get it, like the continuity factor. Perhaps that's why they're trying to maintain as much continuity as they are, because it's a pretty big change going from the play caller that Sean Payton is to an untested new guy. And they're all excited about him. That's why he's getting the opportunity, but it does create some question marks. Elias Bernal, good to see you, pal.
Thank you, Elias.
Thank you for the super chat. He says, Lil Jordan Humphrey is less than a Brown, Higgins, Waddle on draft day. It's the only thing that would make sense to this silence. Well, that's kind of, Zach, one of the things that, you know, bubbling under the surface that some of us have spoken out loud. Maybe not everyone has, but are they maybe working on a trade behind the scenes? They're not pursuing any of these receivers, for example, because, you know, Peyton's talking to Howie Roseman in Philly, trying to get AJ Brown, which there's some new rumors on that front, right? Brian Baldinger said that there's apparently mutual interest between AJ Brown and the Broncos. But at the same time, what was that offer the Patriots made? A first and a third, and they told them no. So what, you're not, this team, especially you see how conservative they're being now that they got all their guys. They're going, we're not going to give up 2 first-round picks for AJ Brown, who's going to be 30 pretty soon. But then again, Zach, there's Waddle. I'm not all that interested in Higgins, but well, maybe T. Higgins. Yes. Waddle for sure.
It's so strange because I feel like, okay, if they're working on a trade, that's something that would be going on in the background we wouldn't be privy to, and they would want to keep things close to their vest. But would they sign literally no players if they were doing that? Don't you think they would have picked up some backup or some depth while working on a trade? You mean to tell me they can't chew gum and walk at the same time here, Chad? I find that hard to believe. Elias, maybe, I hope it's the case. I hope you're right. Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, a solid receiver, AJ Brown, even. I'll settle for that at this point. Someone is walking through that door, but I can't hold my breath, nor should any of you, because the Broncos have shown us so far who they are. And that's a very, very confident, if not cocky team that likes who they have and can feel like they don't need to sign anyone. We don't have to deal with that. That's beneath us. We can run it back completely. And we have Bo Nix and we have Sean Payton. That's the mindset. And I don't agree with it.
And it's not as if they haven't had the money. That's the other thing. I mean,
Richest
they
ownership
entered,
group.
yes, wealthiest in the NFL, and they had 20 some odd million before they freed up another 11 on Quinn Miners. So it doesn't really make sense, guys. We're still scratching our heads, but who knows? Maybe a big move or a trade comes through here in the not too distant future. If the asking price is what I think it is, I'm just telling you now, I hope it's not AJ Brown. In a vacuum, I'd love to see AJ Brown here. You know, having someone there that could actually command some defensive attention away from Cortland Sutton would free up everybody, man, including Cortland, to go out there and make plays. So I could see it being a big deal, but at what cost? Or is that a consideration you're taking into the draft and trying to find somebody? But again, if you don't do anything in free agency, all of a sudden these draft picks, baby, they got to help you right away. And that creates pressure, and it could create an artificial kind of pressure, Zach, that maybe doesn't make you see it as clearly as a draft artist. Maybe you reach, maybe you're a clouded vision, whatever it may be. Tucson Phil, brother, love you. Good to see you. He's saying, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Would you give up Sutton and a draft pick for AJ Brown? Zach's already nodding his head. You answer this, Zach.
Yeah, Phil, if it would lower the cost of the trade, I would absolutely do it, because they are the same type of receiver. And AJ Brown's a better version of Cortland Sutton. You wouldn't need two of the same type. You know, we talked about T. Higgins in the last question, and you want to have a possession guy and you want to have like a game breaker type. T. Higgins is that in Cincinnati. He's a possession. They have Jamar Chase as the breakaway guy. The Broncos don't have that. So it's a 1-for-1 swap here. And I think you're upgrading in that swap. And also, if it will lower the cost of the trade, I would do it. Yeah.
So Cortland Sutton is 30 years old, and he's going to be 31 during the season. AJ Brown is going to turn 29 this summer. So for me, age would play a factor. It would depend on what the other capital was for me to make sense, because I don't think they're that far off from each other, to be honest with you. I don't see that happening, though, Phil. Really, I don't. Like Sutton, they extended him was it just barely last summer, Zach? Was he one of the training camp, or was it the year before? Either way, he's playing now on his third contract that this regime gave him. Sutton's not going anywhere. Team captain, Pro Bowler, part of the culture. But it's fun to speculate.
I don't know, man. I saw Von Miller get moved. I will never say never after I saw that. If it can happen to him, it can happen to Cortland Sutton.
And that was George Payton too, for what it's worth.
True.
All right, let's play it, Mr. Producer. So I tried to distill it for you, but here's the Jaguars GM, what he was saying about the comp pick, and you guys tell us. Let's watch 30 seconds of it, and you tell us whether it resonates.
We're at a stage now where a higher volume of draft capital is what we're hunting up, and those compensatory picks. When you think about high-priced free agents of ours ended up signing elsewhere, well-deserved contracts. I mean, a lot of guys that have already announced his signing, I mean, they did their part to put themselves in really sound positions to earn that, and excited for all those guys. In return, by not signing any outside free agents, we recoup 2027 draft capital. And I think on its surface, you would think, oh, okay, you're going to make picks in 2027. Whereas in reality, those draft picks and having more of them actually allows you the luxury of remaining in the hunt at different intervals throughout the entire calendar year for acquiring players. You think about training camp a year ago and using a day 3 pick to acquire a wide receiver in Tim Patrick. You think about ahead of the trade deadline and being able to use 2 picks on day 3 to acquire a wide receiver in Jacoby Myers. Without that draft capital at your disposal, you may not be as willing or able to relinquish some of those future picks. So by building that up now, it allows us the luxury of remaining sort of with the flexibility to do those sorts of things as we move.
All right. So you get the gist, right? And I think it's a fair point, and it should always, for any respectable, responsible, savvy general manager, Zach, you should be part of the equation on everything you do, right? But like the overarching governing, like priority edict, whatever you want to call it, that's where it's like, you guys, you were close. We can sit here and pick nits in how close the Broncos really were. You've heard me say this before, Zach. My opinion is the Broncos, they weren't a Travis Etienne away from the Super Bowl. They weren't a Kenneth Walker. They were a Bo Nix away. If they had Bo Nix, they're going to the Super Bowl. Now, we can all argue and debate whether they find a way to come out on top against the Seahawks, but that's how close they were. And yet, if we want to put on the critics hat, Zach, and go, well, you know, they played an easier schedule. Well, not easier relative to New England. New England had an easy schedule, but still, compared to what they're going to face this coming season, it was a much easier schedule. You know, they caught the Chiefs on a down year, injuries to Mahomes. Well, the Broncos were part of handing the Chiefs that down year, by the way. So you can go through and pick how maybe the Broncos, Zach, weren't their 14-3 record and how deep they got in the playoffs was fool's gold or some kind of a mirage. But I think there's more there. They are a very good team. They got all the building blocks, but it still doesn't make you impervious to improvement. You know, there is no perfect roster in the NFL. And then we'll grab Shannon.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like what I said earlier, it's tough to compare two situations in the NFL. They're kind of like snowflakes. They're very unique in their own ways. And just because the Jaguars traded for Jacoby Myers at the deadline, that shouldn't justify the Broncos not doing anything for their own team this offseason. So I don't know. Let's see what they have up their sleeve. Hopefully they have a plan in place, because right now it looks like they're just running it back.
Shannon jumping in with another super chat from the top row. We love you, Shannon, so much. Thank you for your support, my friend, and your insight and your takes. She says, do you think that maybe the Broncos are working on restructuring some other contracts to free up more cap space before signing the right person, like a David Njoku, for example? Well, I guess that's possible, Zach, but if they're having to do that and resort to doing that 4 days into free agency, then shame on them. They should have had that cat skinned well before Monday morning at 10 a.m. Mountain Time.
Yeah, Shannon, I hate to be so concise, but like it's what I just said. I feel like maybe there's a plan in place and we don't know about it. We're not privy to that, and it'll be hindsight when it comes out, if it comes out. But right now, we have nothing else to go on. And right now, living in the moment, it looks like the Broncos are just genuinely content with who they had on the roster in 2025. If you played for the Broncos last season, they want you back and they don't want anybody else. It's a very exclusive club now at Broncos Park. But hopefully, I hope I'm wrong. I said this last night. I hope I look back on this and I eat a lot of crow. I always do. I always will. But I hope this time I get to say I was wrong. And God willing, they have a new receiver or tight end or running back walking through that door, if only to help out your quarterback. That's all. Help out Bo Nix.
So here's what's crazy, Shannon. The Broncos, according to Over the Cap at this very moment, and I'm looking here, it's got pretty much everything updated that I've seen so far. Let me double check on some of the little things like Lil Jordan Humphrey. It looks pretty up to date. The Broncos have $18 million in effective cap space right now. Keep in mind, half of that, give or take, has to go toward paying the draft class that's coming at the end of April. So you figure, you know, roughly they have something like $10 million that they could play with. And that's before, Zach, they go out. And first of all, that's after they've re-signed all the guys they've re-signed. So big boxes checked there for what their priorities obviously are. But they still have money they could go spend, and they could go to guys like, I mean, I'm looking at the cap right now. Mike McGlinchey has the biggest cap number for this team in 2026 at $23 million. He's got multiple years left on his deal. Prime restructure candidate. You could go to Ben Powers, ask him to take a pay cut on his $12 million base salary. Patrick Surtain's a guy that you could begin to approach about restructures. Zach Allen, even Talanoa Hufanga. There's multiple options. Quinn Miners played ball and took care of business for him on that front, Zach. Even Garrett Bowles. There's multiple options here if they needed or wanted to free up more money.
Yeah, I was chuckling to myself a second ago because I just loaded Twitter to hope once more that I'll see a Broncos signing or Broncos news, and I didn't. But what I did see was the Chiefs have signed Amari DeMarcado, the running back. And why I bring that up is because that's the second running back they've signed now. They've signed 2 running backs, and the Broncos have signed this many. And if the Chiefs can do it, why can't the Broncos? We talk about the salary cap. They're paying their quarterback $500 million. And they also just brought back Travis Kelce. And they're paying Chris Jones a ton of money. If they can do it, why can't Denver? It's a purposeful move, Chad, to not go out there and get someone. It's one thing to not splurge, but it's another thing to not sign literally anyone 4 days into the process.
I mean, they're signaling that we believe in our guys and we believe in our coaches' ability to continue getting more out of the guys we've got. Like, if they honestly believe, like, look, it's easy for us to say from the outside looking in, but Zach, if they, like, when George Payton answered that question, is RJ Harvey a 3-down back, the way he did, if that's the genuine, it's not just lip service, GM speak, whatever. If he genuinely believes that Harvey's this close to being that guy, why are you going to go out and spend money on an outside running back when you could bring in another Jaleel McLaughlin type guy or free agent, college free agents, or a draft pick if they believe that, right? And I mean, you can do that math, Zach, across the board on all their guys. Bo Nix taking a step forward in year 3. We got to remember, Bo's only a year 3 quarterback. Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, go down the list on offense, right? But where you really run into a wall and lose me, I don't see any developmental upside with the exception of like the real long shot guy of Caleb Lohner at tight end. That tight end room it's just ridiculously thin. Sorry. Like Nate Atkins can block. Cool. Good glue guy relative to the roster. Adam Troutman can block, but he's not great at it. He's not a true asset. That's where right now, and wide receiver. But again, wide receiver, Zach, there's no tier 1 options out there on free agency. You got to do a trade. And that GM that we were just listening to gave you a little window into the world of how these guys think. Those draft picks are gold to them. They don't just give them up willy-nilly like the Rams do, F them picks or whatever. Most teams, Zach, those are prized possessions.
I'm starting to think, and we dismissed it at the time, at the year-end press conference, the combine press conference, when George and Sean Payton would talk, we'd say, oh, it's coach speak. They're just being conservative. They're playing their cards close to their vest. They're playing it secretive. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were telling the truth, and they're genuinely happy with who they have. I mean, Sean Payton mentioned we invested in Marvin Mims. We invested in Troy Franklin. We invested in Pat Bryant, and we like to see the growth there. I'll speak for myself. I said, okay, he doesn't really mean that. He's going to go out there and get a big time receiver, but they haven't. So maybe he does mean it.
Yeah. I mean, we were mystified when Sean Payton stood up there, Zach, and talked about how they basically, without saying it exactly this way, they just don't view wide receiver as a need. And we're like, that's posturing for free agency or negotiations or whatever. But clearly they don't. They don't. I mean, there are rumors, Zach, that they had interest in Romeo Dobbs. Other than that, what was the other San Francisco kid?
Kendrick Bourne.
Bourne. Other than those 2 guys, can you think of a wide receiver, and then we'll grab DJ here, that they've been linked to since free agency opened in terms of genuine interest?
No, because even the beat reporters have only like speculated. There hasn't been a concrete level of interest the Broncos have shown from Broncos Park. Even the Mike Klisses of the world, Chad, are just trying to put dots together right now. There's no smoke emanating right now from the Broncos at all.
Radio silence. DJ Capo, though, he's not being silent. DJ. He's sounding off on Super Chat. Thank you, brother. He says, what's up, Broncos fam? I really think Sutton is gone on draft night. But by the way, we all know Sean Payton is very secretive. I'm from New Orleans, and the news reporter said Sean reached out to Kamara multiple times. Broncos for life. Zach, that could be an option to give you depth at running back. Not an ideal solution relative to what our expectation was, but it would be a body.
Yeah, a body. A semi-warm body, relatively speaking, football speak, because Alvin Kamara, if you watched his game tape from last season, they wanted to replace him with Kendre Miller, but Miller got hurt. They wanted to turn the page on the Alvin Kamara era because he's up there in age now, Father Time's undefeated. I would hope if they were to acquire Alvin Kamara, not via trade. I don't know. I heard he was going to retire, so maybe they're bringing him in to be on the coaching staff. I'm only saying that because I do not want the Broncos. Their one big move. We have waited days, and they're going to make a trade, give up actual draft capital for Alvin Kamara. And I said that last night too. I said, watch this be the one big thing. Watch. That is so Sean Payton coded, Chad, to bring in another Saints guy who's over the hill and thinks he can win with because he built him up, he drafted him, he developed him, and he knows best. That would mean everything we're saying about Sean with the ego and the pride and the way he's constructing the team, that would validate that. I pray to God I don't see that trade happen.
So for what it's worth, if you guys remember Bo Nix's rookie year, all those rumors leading up to the trade deadline, linking the Broncos to Kamara, not only does the trade not happen, but the Saints doubled down and they re-signed him to a 2-year extension. All right. That was October of 2024. So he finishes out that season. And by the way, his 2024 year was pretty solid, Zach. At 28 years old, he gave the Saints 950 rush yards, which is his career high, by the way. 6 touchdowns and then a whole lot of receiving production, over 500 yards, multiple scores. Then you get to this last season, 2025, injury issues. He only starts and appears in 11 games. He has a career low in rushing, 471 yards, mostly as a result probably of the games, the low number of games. But then again, he only had, that is his career low in terms of the number of games he appeared in. Anyway, so if you're Sean Payton, I could see him going, well, a year and a half ago, Zach, he was top of the league doing his thing, giving basically 1,000 yards, 1,500 yards from scrimmage. In my system, I can bring that back to, milk another 1 or 2 years out of Alvin Kamara. I'm with you, dude. It wouldn't completely shock me whatsoever. Do I expect it? No, but it would not surprise me.
It's just I've wanted, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I've wanted the Broncos to have an elite running back for years and years now, but it's still a devalued position in the NFL because you can pick up a really solid running back, especially if you have a committee like the Broncos do. You can pick them up in the 4th round. You can find them as undrafted free agents. You can get them on 1-year deals or 2-year deals. You don't have to really overcommit yourself, and you don't have to tie yourself to the ghost of Alvin Kamara. And let me tell you something, Chad, and this is kind of as an aside and quickly, maybe you agree, maybe you don't. I've noticed Sean Payton's an amazing coach. He's done amazing work with the Broncos, but in some of his answers, if you watch his press conferences or read the transcripts, he's constantly referencing the past. He's constantly living in the past, talking about either Bill Parcells or Drew Brees or the Saints. It's like, bro, it's 2026. Your quarterback is Bo Nix. You're the coach of the Broncos. I hope he's not living in the past with Alvin Kamara because he has the power to acquire him. If he wants Kamara, he'll get Kamara. And Kamara is not what's right for the Broncos now, especially when you brought back J.K. Dobbins, who knows the system already.
And when you have R.J. Harvey, who's steadily becoming a guy like that. I mean, just doing comparisons real quick, and then we'll move on from this subject. We're about out of time tonight, but his rookie year, Kamara rushed for 728 yards, 800 receiving. So he gave you 50. He's basically a 1,500 yards from scrimmage guy per season that is going to flirt with double digits. However, he turns 31 this summer. So let's keep that in mind. Guys, just to summarize here, it's hard to say what the heck is going on, what the exact school of thought is. We're getting nothing but radio silence, not only in the fact that the Broncos are not making outside moves, but they're sure as heck not sharing with anybody their school of thought, what they're thinking, their philosophy. And that's their privilege, Zach. That's their prerogative. And, competitive, you got to keep in mind competitive advantage and all that stuff. But as time marches on, it just becomes so much more conspicuous and almost like they're now just doing it to defy expectations. It's Rian Johnson's Star Wars movie. We're just going into this to defy your expectations, and doing it for the sake of defying expectations sounds very petty. But at the same time, we know Sean Payton can be petty, Zach.
At some point, they're going to sign an outside player. This streak will end at some point. We don't know when. But what will not change is the fact the Broncos sat on their hands, sat on the sideline for this amount of time, for however long it is, and missed out on the chance of really getting some A+ stud talent. And that could have ripple effects. I hope it doesn't, but that could have ripple effects in September, October, November, December, January. We got asked that question tonight, Chad. If the Broncos don't make the playoffs, who are we blaming? As of right now, I am blaming George Paton and Sean Payton for not doing enough to help out Bo Nix and help out your offense and help out your roster as of right now. So we'll see. Hopefully we don't have that conversation in the future.
I'm still leaving the window wide open to further, stuff happening and what they do. And even if they make 0 additional moves in free agency from now till the draft, what they do in the draft, I'm still highly confident in Sean Payton as a coach. I'm very confident in the roster as is. I'm confident in George Paton as a competent, savvy, experienced now GM. And at this stage, as much as it mystifies me, last thing I'm going to say on this, I'm going to trust the process for now. It's frustrating because, we're now, Zach, basically 2 months almost into no Broncos football. So we're all starving for a little action, something to just help us get through the offseason a little easier, right? And each day that passes without a move, it just makes it feel like time is moving all that much slower, and it's going to take forever till the draft gets here and all that. But again, hey, I'm going to trust that they have a plan, that there's some reason and rhyme to this, and go from there. I think they've earned that from me. I'm speaking for myself. I think they've earned that so far with what they've been able to accomplish.
Yeah. Like at base, the Broncos should be a playoff team. They have a franchise quarterback. They have an elite defense. They have, like you said, a still really good coach in Sean Payton. And we're all excited about Davis Webb and what he can do as a play caller. But we shouldn't want to settle for just being a playoff team. We want the Broncos to advance beyond to where they finished last season. We don't want them to just even get back to the AFC Championship. We want them to win that game, get to the Super Bowl, and then win the Super Bowl. That should be the expectation every single year. So in order to do that, I feel a lot of Broncos fans, Chad, I'm sure feels, heavily the same way still, that they should have done a little more to push themselves over the top. They needed that little bit of talent injection to get over the hump, and they opted not to do it.
I mean, absolutely. There's nits I can pick. There's players I wish they would have gone after, players I wish they wouldn't have brought back, or at least not at the level that they did, for sure. So hopefully we get at least one move here pretty soon. Maybe we can hear from a coach in the not too distant. But you know what? Honestly, Zach, I'm not expecting to hear from Sean Payton. Even if they had a big week this week, I wouldn't expect to actually hear from Sean Payton or George Paton until after the draft. So FYI on that. But guys, we got a few messages for you here. We're going to take one last look at the chat. So don't go away.
Tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Mile_High_Huddle. If you haven't done so, please join the new MHH Discord server. The link is in the description below. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very important as always, that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
All right, before we dip on out of here, we got the Chaos Man, Bootboy90, riding the 60 bus in with a super chat, a dear member. We also got Broncos guy. We'll grab real quick. Josh says, it's disheartening to see the uproar. This team went 14-3 with all our faults and a healthy Bo Nix away from the Super Bowl. We're a damn good team, and we've had nothing but success. Trust the process. Breathe, Zach. LOL.
I mean, Josh, I haven't been able to breathe since the legal tampering window opened. I've been ranting literally and figuratively about the Broncos moves for 3 going on 4 days now. So like I said last night, the Broncos keep hurting me. Every time I check Twitter, I don't see a new news about the Broncos or a new signing that's not someone that played for them. It's very disheartening. I'm willing to give it time. Hopefully there is a plan in place. And like Chad said, all we can do, it's not that we should, it's that all we can do is trust the process. That's it. We'll see what happens.
We are in uncharted waters, though, Josh, and so it's not a complete surprise the reaction that is coming through. Some of the extreme side of it has surprised me at times, but you know, fanhood and professional sports in general, it's an emotional affair. We ride the ups, we ride the downs, and so we'll see how this thing resolves. But thank you for checking in, brother, with that generous support tonight. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you, man.
And enjoying some punk rock, my brother. Broncos guy, thank you for the super saying Lil drops Humphreys back. Woohoo! Yep, the Broncos brought Lil Jordan Humphrey back, so that goes along with real quick, Zach. Then we got to go. Adam Prentice today, Lucas Kroll, Nate Adkins, Troutman, the two linebackers, Sternad, Singleton,
Palcho,
Palcho,
Ellinger,
J.K. Dobbins. What was the one you just said?
Ellinger, the quarterback.
Ellinger, thank you. I think that covers it.
Bidet.
But yeah, but these are ERFA tenders, right?
That's true, yeah.
I do wonder what's going to happen with Jaleel McLaughlin. Like, they're not signing another guy. Are they going to bring someone in? Or are they earmarking that for the draft? We'll see. We'll see. But guys, before we dip and get out of here, a mile high salute, a special shout out to the great Super Chat superstars, supporters, dear members, and dear friends helping us keep the lights on 12 days into this bizarre month of March. Want to give a very, very special, unique shout out right here to Michaela.
Thank you so much.
Most generous super chat an individual can bestow on YouTube. We love you, Michaela. Hang in there. We'll get through this period. And even if they don't do anything, the drafts are coming. The drafts are coming. Papa Bear, thank you, pal. The Ronk, very generous super. Sam Bam, thank you, brother. Taylor, Shannon with multiple supers.
Thank you, Shannon.
Legit Mafia, David Yunkin, Elias, Tucson Phil on Facebook, DJ Capo checking in from New Orleans, the Chaos Man, Boot Boy 90, and then Broncos guy. My apologies. Thank you, guys. We're off, Zach and I, until Sunday. So we'll see. A lot could happen between now and then, I suppose.
Yeah,
or maybe nothing happens.
Yeah,
Zach, maybe nothing. A lot could happen, right? Tomorrow morning, Broncos for breakfast, followed by Dove Valley Deep Divers. See you Sunday, guys.
Yeah, I was laughing because it's like, okay, well, I can't wait to rant about nothing happening again for another pod. Please, Broncos, save me from this. God willing, we'll have much to talk about on Sunday. But regardless, have a great rest of your Thursday, a great start to your weekend. We will see you Sunday. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.